In a rare and unprecedented moment in our long and storied history, when men are being swept away by the great tsunami of graphic arousal imagery, it is the women who are finding themselves holding and guarding the sacred space and taking on the critical leadership roles and guidance men are so desperately needing. Women harness immense power, wisdom, and light within their hearts and souls as the ones who bear, rear, and raise new life in our world. Women find themselves in the unenviable position today of searching for the light and listening to the voice of God for how to lead the men out of addiction and back into balance. Join me as we take a deep dive into the minds of women in order to gain their wisdom and perspective. With an open mind and peering through an open doorway, let us see what we can learn, grow, and gain from how women perceive graphic arousal imagery. How do women perceive graphic arousal imagery? I was born in these times to fulfill a powerful sacred mandate and a divine dedicated mission handed to me by God, which is to help awaken millions of men and women to the scientifically documented destructive nature of graphic arousal imagery and to show them the way forward to reclaim their arousal, neurological, relational, mental, emotional, and spiritual power. I am perfectly situated and straddled with one leg firmly planted in the age just before graphic arousal imagery came into existence, and the other leg firmly planted in the age just after the tsunami of graphic arousal imagery made landfall, in order to provide the youth with the unique and broad perspective on the true dysfunctional nature of graphic arousal imagery. I grew up in a time completely unimaginable and alien to the youth of today, and within a previously uninterrupted long ancestral line of men, congruent and intertwined with the previous hundreds of thousands of years of rich human history and vibrant heritage before the arrival of graphic arousal imagery. The world I grew up in was a time of relative innocence, purity, strength, creativity, ingenuity, and power. Can you imagine for a moment what it would be like if the entire internet and all the graphic arousal imagery, similar virtual imagery, social media, dating sites, and gaming suddenly disappeared? Just take a moment to imagine what that would really feel like. It would be absolutely shocking, sending us into a spiral of desperate and overwhelming withdrawal symptoms. This was the world I grew up in, not that long ago, back in the 70s, 80s, and even 90s. Contrary to the haunting specter and horrifying vision of such a thought, I was truly happy and free without the internet, graphic arousal imagery, social media, texts, and emails. In fact, I feel so blessed to have been given the priceless and rare experience I carry with me to this day of the immense joy and power I experienced in a world absolutely free of the overbearing intrusion and very real dysfunctional nature of graphic arousal imagery. From a world the youth can barely even imagine is possible, I feel I have been sent as one of the wise elders of our long line of generations of men, stretching back for tens of thousands of years, in order to pass the torch to the youth and to tell the youth the story of the world I grew up in a world of freedom, health, and harmony, which really does exist. Not only is such a world real, such a world is your birthright. Ask yourself this question deep within your heart and soul with me right now. Are you truly happy, satisfied, joyous, and empowered with your current state of dependence, habituation, and addiction to graphic arousal imagery? Do you truly believe you are reaching your highest potential and empowerment by regularly engaging in graphic arousal imagery? I can tell you from my own experience and the experience of hundreds of thousands of other men who have permanently quit graphic arousal imagery? The answer is a resounding and symphonic no. No, you are not. I can tell you right now, you absolutely and unequivocally are not truly happy, satisfied, joyous, and empowered. The graphic arousal cybersphere, created by the flawed and flimsy hands of man, when exposed and reduced to its naked core and true nature, is not endowed with the innate intelligence and inherent power of God to evoke true growth, satisfaction, joy, and empowerment in our sacred body, mind, and soul. Graphic arousal imagery does not provide us with the same feelings of true connection, harmony, and synergy we embody in a real natural relationship with a real connected partner. The absolute essence of the graphic arousal cybersphere, when it is stripped of its false promise and its fake facade of fantasy, simply is not aligned with our divine neurology and mind, which is capable of infinite potential and endless possibilities. The entire graphic arousal universe, while offering the superficial glitter, the alluring glimmer, and the false illusion and promise of immediate satisfaction, conquest, and success, is by its very nature geared to devolve, devalue, and disempower us from the bold initiators and empowered creators, which is our own priceless gift and inherent true nature. The true intention and ultimate result of the graphic arousal universe is to contort, deform, and constrict us into listless, receptive, malleable, and dysfunctional consumers. The youth of today are undergoing an immensely trying and difficult test in this age of graphic arousal imagery. The youth have been confronted with a unique and impossible negative habit, obsession, and addiction, intentionally geared to their own specific arousal blueprint in the form of perfectly choreographed and staged graphic arousal fantasies. The neurology and energy of the youth are being ceaselessly bombarded, shattered, and utterly destroyed by this powerful addiction of regular essence release to graphic arousal imagery on a massive and systemic scale. Millions of youth are experiencing arousal dysfunction, relational dysfunction, as well as neurological, energetic, physical, mental, and spiritual dysfunction because of the merciless onslaught of graphic arousal imagery today. These dysfunctions simply did not exist in the world I grew up in. When I grew up, the outside world and the daily experiences which were unveiled to me was my internet. My family, friends, and people I came across, peering into their eyes, feeling their tone, shaking and slapping their hand, and starting a conversation until it reached its full expression before wishing them a pleasant and heartfelt goodbye, was my social media. Swimming, surfing, walking, hiking, playing sports, and playing real games was my gaming. Swooning, crushing, and fantasizing about the girl I was actually interacting with was my dating app. Today, the youth carry everything of import tucked within their back pocket, like a kangaroo carries its precious baby within the welcoming pouch of its soft underbelly. Their phone, text, email, library, school, entertainment, friends, life experiences, dating, relationships, arousal, self-pleasuring, and their entire lives are now all compressed and constricted to a 3x6-inch rectangular synthetic and virtual device. Teenagers as young as 9, 10, and 11 years old are exposed to powerful dopamine neurostimulus, hardwiring, formatting, and addictions with an unrestricted, unlimited, instantaneous, and easy reach. With a lackadaisical click and a flimsy flick of a finger, the entire history of human experience, stretching back for hundreds of thousands of years, and the entire natural creation created by the majestic hand of God has been replaced and reduced to a minute man-made device with an artificial intelligence and a virtual remote experience. From my perspective, the internet absolutely does provide invaluable information when it is used for intellectual and scientific growth. But when it is used as a replacement for real relationships and life experiences, the internet only provides a mirage and an illusion of real experience. Social media merely serves to isolate and disconnect us from real friends, life events, and rites of passage, rather than bring us together in real, true friendship and community. Graphic arousal imagery estranges, disconnects, and divides us from our intimacy, connection, and bond with our real connective partner, displacing and replacing them with an elusive fantasy of mere pixels on a screen. A cold, calculated computer screen can never simulate the true warmth, connection, and emotions a real woman can provide for a man. Women know this intuitively, spiritually, and innately within their heart and soul. Yet why do men not know this? And how do the women of today really perceive graphic arousal imagery? Women have a deeply profound connection with ethics, morals, the laws of the universe, and God. Women are incredibly intelligent and wise in their decision-making processes. Women are relational beings at their very core, preferring to make healthy arousal, intimate, and relational choices in the majority of experiences and decisions throughout their lives. The latest studies have shown that while both 96% of men and women are initially equally exposed to graphic arousal imagery at some point in their lives, 80% of men continue to engage in graphic arousal imagery at least once per week, compared to only 24% of women. Only 16.8% of women have intentionally watched graphic arousal imagery for the sole purpose of arousal excitement. 42.3% of women who have seen graphic arousal imagery did not look for it intentionally, having been unintentionally exposed without even wanting to consciously view it. Women are much more likely than men to read or listen to romance, intimacy, and erotica, where the power of their imagination can run free and gain in strength and potency. To women, a fully embodied, creative, and empowered arousal capacity and potency, with the presence to experience and the flexibility to perform at immensely satisfying pinnacles and peaks of arousal success, is what really interests them and drives them forward. There is a startling dissonance, a stark contrast, and a vast chasm in the way women perceive graphic arousal imagery compared to men. What does this tell us about women? Women are clearly not impressed by what graphic arousal imagery has to offer, and certainly not obsessed, habituated, and addicted to graphic arousal imagery at the same appalling rates men are today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to catch the next video.